Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode on the Hermitcraft server. Let's do the F5 thing. Actually, that looked pretty cool for a second there, and that. Let's just do that. That's because the game isn't rendering what's behind us. If I don't move my mouse and press F5... Oh, it didn't do it that time. Let's try again. Nope. There we go. Okay, I saw the trees behind me as well last time. It's a little interesting. There we go, look, the trees are loaded, but the stuff around it isn't, and the torches are loaded too. That is really strange. Let's just do that again. Huh, some of the torches are loaded. Strange stuff, strange stuff. Anyway, we are over here at the Guardian Farm, and do you know what? We need a name for this place, because Guardian Farm just sounds a little bit too straightforward, and I was looking around at this place, and I was thinking Atlantis would be the name. How have you spawned to call this place? And Atlantis is the name of one of our great projects from xisumo's world, and it's really fitting for this place as well because of course it's located underwater. Is that the same creeper? It can't be. Just killed that other guy. Okay, they're probably spawning down there and wandering off. And yes, another problem with this, some guardians have been surviving the drop, so we need to lower it a little bit more. But yeah, Atlantis, it could be a cool name for this place. As I was thinking about it, I was picturing tearing down these walls and replacing them with glass, which would look really cool, and all of this is underwater as well. But look at the walls here, they kind of got their own aesthetic value from how the light is shining down and up. You see where the torches are, the light's going up and changing the colour of it slightly. And I reckon if you were to organise the torches and place them neatly, that could create a really cool pattern on the wall. I think I might try that in a moment. But before we do that, let's go and have a look at the top. Well, actually, we don't need to go up there to talk about this. All I got to say, though, is I really appreciate all of you guys giving me ideas and feedback for this because there's been something really cool pointed out about this. So at the moment, what we're doing is we're making rows like this, and then the dirt is water, so we got dirt in between. And we could possibly do this more efficiently by using the same method we use when we do the sugarcane farms. So what we would do is we'd have our glass wall going down, we'd have 4 spaces on the sides, and that would be where there'd be downward flowing water to harvest the guardians quicker, and then we'd put our next one like this, and then it'd be slightly more efficient overall. So let's just place 2 more of these so you can kind of see what's going on, and then the next one goes there, and so we would use less glass, we'd have more spawning spaces, and that's just more efficient, isn't it? Now I did have one concern, which is that guardians spawn inside a 2x2 area, which they can do right there. However, when we have it in a row like this, the space in the middle means that it kind of overlaps a little bit, and I did that wrong, didn't I? Let's just remove these blocks. So where we have 4 like that, and now I've run out of dirt, that's great. Not very well prepared. We have 4 here. You also have it overlapping because you have a space of 4 here, and then a space of 4 there, and over here as well. So I'm not actually sure if that is going to be more efficient because of that. And I've just got to make up my mind. At the moment I haven't made up my mind at all, and I've been wrestling with some other ideas as well. Now a lot of you were talking about using sugarcane, which is what Efo did in his farm, and I watch Efo as well, so I know where all of you are getting your ideas from. And the problem with using sugarcane, or at least with what I'm trying to do, is that you have to plant it on something. So all the way down at the bottom it means that you're going to have a block that the sugarcane is planted in. So what we're trying to do here is collect all the items with these minecarts going back and forth, and if we had sand with sugarcane down on the bottom, then that would block where the minecart goes. So using that is going to not work in this scenario, although we could have some floating sand blocks up the top there, but then the guardians might land on the sand and they'd probably jump off, but it would be less efficient overall, I think. And you know what, like different designs do different things. What we're trying to do here is just create a very fast item collection for this. You know, we want the guardians to fall down, want them to die as quick as possible so they can spawn again, and then we want to pick up the items because this is all about getting some building blocks. Now at the same time I have been wrestling with the idea of turning this into an XP farm as well. It does sound like a really cool project, so what I might do is just do this on one side and do an XP farm on the other one, maybe one we can turn on and off or something like that. But I do have a few ideas for trying to combine the two together in a sort of toggleable mode, and so what I want to do this episode is maybe just go through the ideas of doing that, so I can show you how the creative process works, how you can troubleshoot ideas, because I've already had a few ideas that turned out they wouldn't work, and I thought it'd be fun to show you, and then by showing you all of these ideas, maybe some of you will be able to figure out how we could possibly combine the two of these together. But I think what I'm going to do right now is give myself some time to get prepared and think about how I'm going to show you this, because I'm not prepared at all. I've got no food, got no building blocks on me. I need to get myself sorted out. So I figured it would be a little over the top to show you this stuff in survival, as it doesn't work. But first of all, we're in a test world. I've just kind of, filled the world with stone so nothing can spawn. But here's something interesting. You can see the sun up there. If I go and do the game rule to set the daylight cycle to false, it keeps on moving. And I don't know why that is. Maybe that is a bug. But here's another thing. When you type out the commands and you press tab, it fills out the rest of it for you. So I press tab, then I press space and F, the first letter of false, and I press tab and nothing else happens. And if I go for T, it doesn't fill it out either. So I think that's bugged out in the pre-release. So yeah, occasionally it turns to night and I just have to change it back. So I was out cycling and I was thinking about this farm and how we could try and convert it into something where it can be an XP farm and a regular one as well. And I had this genius idea that we would get a row of dispensers and we would put them above fence gates, and that we could turn this on and off. Now, it's a lovely idea, but unfortunately, when I thought about starting to build it, I realised that, of course, they're going to have momentum when the Guardians fall down, and they're just going to go right through the water. But it would have been ever so cool, because we would have been able to turn this thing on and off, which would have been really awesome. So unfortunately that doesn't work. I've also been observing this, and like just there, you can see the Guardians will also spawn in this water, and they literally fall out of it straight away. So what I want to do next is actually just raise this up using MC Edit. I want to put it directly below this right here, but I think we're going to see the same thing happen, because we've already seen the Guardians spawning in the water, and all they do is just fall straight out. Well, it seems that squid can survive in this thing. However, they don't seem to be affected by water currents. They just swim around doing their own thing until they decide to swim downwards. And yes, of course, it doesn't work even when this thing is raised up, which is really unfortunate. This would have made a lovely farm design, but once I realised that this wasn't going to work, I started to think about other ways that we could try and make a farm that we could have as both an item collection one and an XP farm as well. So the plan was to pick up all of those items from the Guardians using hopper minecarts, and I kind of gave you an idea of what the system was going to look like. This will be more like what the final product is, without the excessive redstone blocks, of course. But the idea is that you have your minecarts going back and forth, and then whenever there's items on the track, they're going to be able to pick those up. And then when they go into the end here, we've got this little system like I showed you in the last episode, so it stops them while they drop off their items. Now, one of the problems with this is that slimes are going to be able to spawn on the tracks, but the thing is, tracks are not air blocks, so that's not where the spawning sequence starts. So one of the things we would do is in each direction we would go out by 20 blocks with just full blocks, make sure they're all filled up, and then that would stop slime spawning in the middle. But another way to prevent slime spawning, as some of you pointed out in the comments, is just to put slabs down like this. So when we got the slabs here, the hoppers are still able to pick up the items. And by the way, this is only going to prevent the slime spawning on top of the slabs. They can still technically spawn down the bottom here, and I think we've just witnessed another problem with this. If the items are close to the edge on the half slab, then they're not going to get picked up either. So let's just chuck down a couple right in the middle there. Okay, so maybe because this is in the middle, it can get picked up by either side, but that one being on the edge, it doesn't. We can find that out. I really want to know, actually, if that's the case. Oh, I just picked it up. That was silly. Let's see if we can get one stuck on the edge again. Okay, so that one is not getting picked up. Let's put a minecart right there. Okay, that's interesting. That one picks up the ones from that side. Anyway, this got me thinking, because although this doesn't technically prevent slime spawning, because the small ones could still spawn down the bottom here, what it does mean is that we could have water flowing over the top. So we could collect the items, but when there's water above it, it means that the Guardians are going to fall in the water, not take full damage, and go wherever the water current is sending them. So we could have a bunch of dispensers at the end here, pushing water over the top of all of our tracks with the slabs on top of them. But the thing is, that means that they're going to have to go down every 7 blocks, so the water can fall over the edge and then continue going to the end. But the end result would mean that with some dispensers at one end, we could turn it on, the water would go and push all of the Guardians into a collection funnel in the middle. Now the problem here is, and if I just replace that with a half slab, this is probably what we'd want to do, something like that. And if we put down this hopper, there's a full block behind it, so it's going to move out. But when it gets to this end, it doesn't move out because that is only half a block, or not a full block in the eye of the minecart. So now it goes back and forth, which is what we would want this thing to do. But what we can't make it do is go down. And when we put a hopper down here and push it along, it goes up through the solid block, which is also annoying. Now you might be thinking, just make it this track go into the block right there, but there doesn't appear to be any way of doing that. I'm trying to think of some of the techniques that I used, like what happens if we place this one first, put a solid block above it, and then place the other one second. Well, it just connects with, which is a little bit unfortunate. So using the minecarts under half slabs kind of looks like something we can't do at the moment. However, I do have one more thought on this. We put a half slab back there again. Remember, the water's going to be able to run over the edge here, fall down and then go across. If we put a minecart at the bottom here and push it along, it's going to go up all the way to the top. And that means what we could do is have it drop off the edge, fall down onto a track down the bottom and head all the way back to the front, where we could have this loading mechanism and then send it back up again, which could be a little bit problematic because it needs to be one wide and, you know, tileable to go across the entire floor. But that is one way that we could possibly pull this off. And there was another thing that I wanted to mention here and I just can't quite remember what it was. So you might be thinking, why don't you just leave a gap for the minecart to go through? Well, let's put one right there. You can see it doesn't go down, so we need a bigger gap and then it can go through. Now the question is, can it pick up items? I didn't actually test this, I just sort of looked at it and thought, yep, it's not going to be able to do that, so let's give it a proper test. There you go, we've got some diamonds on the top there. If we put down our minecart, let's see what it picks up. There you go, well it missed that one there, which is the one I didn't expect it to, but it also didn't get those ones. Let's just send it through a few more times. It could be because that is over on the edge. Let's just put down a couple more of these, but I think you can see it's not going to be able to pick them up. So you may have noticed it did actually manage to pick it up, so let's put down another one of these and see what it does and doesn't pick up this time. Oh, that one came back. Oh, I see what's happening. Okay, so there are a couple it can't pick up. Again, over there that one seems to be on the right hand side. It has some trouble picking that up, but these ones right here are never going to be picked up basically, which might sound like not the worst thing in the world because it's picking up everywhere else, but we do want this thing to be efficient. And another problem is that it leaves a big space right here for the slimes to spawn. You see there is an air block right here, so it could possibly spawn a slime somewhere over here, which isn't good. So I've been brainstorming a little bit more. If we put a minecart down at the end here, it goes all the way across, falls down, and then continues on its way. And I thought because it falls down it might make things a little bit more flexible. As you saw there though, it kind of derps through the blocks a little bit, which is strange. But after a while I realised that it wouldn't get picked up off of this block if there are any items on top of it. So then I started thinking about, well, what if the minecart was travelling in the opposite direction and we were doing something completely different? We were sending it upwards and it went up like that, then all of the water would flow over and funnel everything down. Problem with this is it kind of picks up some of the items but not all of them, and I've done a lot of testing with this, so you'll have to take my word for it. It doesn't seem like there's any pattern whether the items are closer to one side of the block or the other in any of the directions, but it tends to just miss some out. And there you go, so it missed all of those three. Let's just send one more. Yeah, so it doesn't pick up all of the items, and if it did that would have been awesome, that would have been a great idea, but then I had a little bit of a eureka moment because we're sending this in the opposite direction to what we were sending it before. And this is one of those things when you're designing stuff, is little things get stuck in your head and you don't realise how important they are. And so the minecart travelling in the opposite direction is a big deal because it means we can go back to what we originally had, which would be where the water flows over these blocks, falls down by one, goes over these ones, but wherever the minecart is underneath, it's going to be able to pick up everything on top of it. And that's because we're going to send it in this direction, and it's actually going to go through this half slab, so then it can fall down and come all the way back, and it will actually go through this thing right here. So why don't we see it in action? Let's place this down, and that was weird. It didn't do that before. Let's watch that again. Right, so does it pick up the items if they're on these slabs right here because of that derpiness? Let's throw down a whole bunch and have a look. Yeah, it does. And that is probably the design we're going to end up going with. Now, the question at the moment is, do I really want to build this? Because we're going to double up on the amount of tracks. It's going to be a lot more effort. But it does mean we'll have a toggleable farm where we can switch the mode. And another thing I think I'd need to do would be to put this at the opposite end, because the water's going to be flowing down this way and eventually it's just going to go into a big canal in the middle. But this does look promising. I'm going to do some testing where I'm going to make the design a little more refined, put these side by side, make sure they work, But if they do, it means we can make a lot more progress in our actual Hermitcraft world, because we'll know what we'll be building towards, and I've got to say I'm excited about this. This is heading in the right direction. I think we're getting close to something we can build on the server here, but there is a little bit of a problem. It's a pretty big problem. Back over here you can see these minecarts are getting stuck, and that's because they can't make the transition from this side up like that. Now back over there it works fine, and the reason why is because we don't have blocks up here. As soon as we put half slab on top of that, it is going to stop this thing from working. Or not, apparently. Why does that work over here and not back there? Okay, so it's when we got the other block to the side of it then. Interesting. You'd think it'd be the block directly there that stops it, so apparently it's this one. Huh. Okay, well that might actually be useful. That might be very useful. And off they go. So what we could do is raise the half slabs up here. That would mean adjusting all of these platforms so that the water could flow over it. But I did do a little bit of a test, and the hoppers don't pick up the items from up there, even though they're moving up the track, which is unfortunate. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be a way to do this. I'm going to ask some friends, get some people to come and take a look at this, and maybe you guys will have some solutions as well. But I think that is us done in our little designing in the test world for now. There are only a couple more comments I have about this. One of them would be that as the track comes back, it may as well I say go back, I guess the minecarts are going forward on it, but this bit right here, it should raise up as it heads towards the back of this, just to save some space underneath. I've already done a heck of a lot of digging, and I could do with saving a little bit more. But this in theory works, of course. I just want to get that one little problem figured out, and then I'll be able to do a proper test. And an idea just popped into my head. What happens if there's glass there? Well, that is good to know. Or maybe not. Now we are back on the server, and you can see I put a lot of time into this thing right here. It's now extended all the way over to the other side, and I decided to commit to the 2 wide water streams. I figured the efficiency difference probably wasn't going to be much, and it's more about just getting this thing up and running now. So there it is. That box isn't finished though. We need another couple of rows going towards the middle here, and then it will be finished. Now the plan is to build one on this side, one on the other side, to have our water stream in the middle for the XP farm mode. And even though the design that we looked at a moment ago isn't quite there, I'm pretty sure I can get it to work. So I'm going to commit to the idea, and we're going to build a farm that is both an automatic one and an XP one as well. Now I've been not just extending this thing, I've been doing a few other things in the area, mainly caving. And I've also been chopping down tons of trees, and these guys are so pesky. What I'm going to do next is actually dig down so all of these guys will die when they fall down, and then we're going to extend our temporary tracks on this side over here, because it will take us a long time to get to the end product, so having this temporary thing running will be a good idea. Now this little hole over here, I was running an experiment, and I noticed before this guy went in there that there was nothing in this hole, but there was something before. I had 3 giant slimes spawn somewhere over here, and I decided to break them all up to the smallest one, but to leave all of the smallest ones. And then there was an absolute ton of them heading towards me, and I thought it would be funny just to dig a little hole and let them fall into it. But then when I came back later, there were less of them in there, so I kept killing all of the slimes that spawned in this area, putting them in the hole, and they have been despawning without me going out of 128 blocks range of them. Now I remember, it was quite some time ago, we had a snapshot where they changed the way slimes worked in water streams, and it just feels like such a long time ago because 1.8 has taken so long, but they have changed things to do with the slimes, and I think because of that they can actually now despawn at a closer range. And there is another one right there, so I'm going to actually do this on camera now. Let's just kill that guy, and these guys are going to take forever. What you really want to do is to bring the big ones over to you and then kill them when they're closer to the hole. But of course there's nothing stopping me from making another one. They also die if you make it 3 deep. So that guy died, you can see his remains. Anyway, we've got 3 of them in there. What we're going to do is just continue our work. I'm going to start digging that massive hole, and I bet you these guys are going to despawn. Well, a little bit of digging later, and they've gone, so they can despawn. I'm going to have to look into that. That is interesting stuff. And look at the wall. Doesn't it look cool? I've spaced these all so they have 3 spaces in between, each of the torches that is, and then at the top I've done it except the torches are placed in the middle, like there, there and there, and it makes a pretty cool pattern, I think. I have some good and some bad news. The good news first of all, we are getting plenty of guardian spawns out of this thing. I did a little bit of caving and it seemed to make a really big difference. And I've dug this down a fair bit. In fact, this bit over here is now 2 blocks deeper. You can see that from where the track used to be over here. And I have seen the occasional guardian survive the drop, so I am a little bit concerned about that. But the bad news is I'm not going to be able to finish this. The plan was to dig out the rest of this hole, put down the tracks, but unfortunately I have run out of time. And like I have mentioned a few times in the recent videos you've been watching, I was going away for the weekend, and I also realised I needed to prepare a video for when I come back, because I'm going to be exhausted and you guys will want Hermitcraft on a Tuesday. That is the tradition I tried to hold to on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and so I thought I'd squeeze in another episode, a little bit of recording, and I'll probably be able to do a bit more in between episodes, I guess, but I'm going to have to upload this video now. So I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you like the process that I tried to show of just being in that creative mode environment where you're trying out different things and trying to figure out how you can do something. And if you have any ideas on that problem that we had, in fact, I'd like to go back into the test world quickly, because I really just want to talk about it again at the end, what the problem is, because maybe together we can come up with a solution. This is like the derpiest test world ever. Look at these guys just bumping around, flapping their tails. It looks ridiculous. Let's talk about the problem. You can see it's working at the moment, and I was thinking about sacrificing a little bit of efficiency to get this thing to work. So one thing to point out is that this bit right here aligns up with that glass block. That's where the glass will be at the top. So technically, well, it's probably unlikely, but there might not be a lot of items landing on this bit here, just because the Guardians are going to fall down at the other side. Now, based on their behaviour, I don't know if when they're falling, they're going to sort of move over to the edges, or if the items are going to move out when they land. That is a possibility, but I thought I'd keep that in mind, that maybe we could just sacrifice 1 or 2 spaces here to make this thing work. But the main problem is, if we replace these blocks with a full block, and it has to be at the right height, which is there, and I think we were trying to put half slabs here as well. Yeah, they get stuck. Now, if we remove those, they're absolutely fine with that gap, but we can't, of course, leave a gap. We've also got to consider that water is flowing over the top of here. And another idea I had was, what if we made the little bit right here somewhere down the bottom in front of this end of the track, but this bit right here has to be a drop with water streams. And I guess I didn't really consider where the water streams start. The water's going to end there, so I guess the water streams could start on these blocks. So maybe that gives you a little bit of flexibility over the end here, like you'd have some space underneath. But the main point would be, yeah, that the water's going in this space. In fact, as it goes across this way, it's going to go down as well. So you're probably not going to have a lot of space to work with. But if you do have any ideas on how we can fix this, please just leave a comment down below. Maybe post a link to an imager if you've created something in a test world, because I really want to get this fixed, because this is going to be an amazing build once we can get around to doing it. But that is going to be it for this episode. I hope you have enjoyed it. As always, please do leave a like if you have. It will always be appreciated. And I will catch you next time.